And now we take our finished painting and we have to remove any rubber cement, any liquid masking fluid that we applied before we did our wash. Notice it's completely dry, cannot touch it when it's wet, and notice once again it's flat. Even the ripples that we noticed before have disappeared. In beginning to rub this masking off, what you'll notice is white will begin to come through the paper. And before that, you'll notice that there was some blue, and the blue was just simply covering up the rubber cement. This is so that we can secure white areas before we paint, because once you do apply your blue paint on the sky, it's going to be blue if it didn't have masking on there before. You can see how easy the rubber cement will come off with a little bit of pressure, making sure that your hands are very clean before you try to do this. Every place that you rub where you had the rubber cement, you'll notice will get whiter. This is something that a lot of people who do watercolors like to do because they don't have the desire to spend hours going around each cloud with their paintbrush. And because it's wet wash, you really don't have hours in applying that wash. You can see how smooth and even the wash was because we were able to do it quickly. Once you get this removed, then you're able to add more color if you'd like to give some more effect. Here's some other little areas down here where the boats, as you can see, we have boats in the harbor, and I had to apply some little tiny bit on each boat just so that you could have that ability to define it a little bit more, and you'll be defining it with some gray and some blue, maybe a little brown. You'll be defining it, but you will have white areas, which you can see easily right there. In taking a look at this now, if you decide, well, I'd like to have some edges that are a little bit softer, you can apply a little bit, just a little bit of color to make it a little softer, but we're not going for a lot of heavy watercolor now. We're just using a very light touch to soften some of these edges and to add a little bit of color so that we don't have too much of a hard edge when we're finished. So this will soften some of the edges that you see. You can do this also for any background mountains that you wanted to be a little bit more pronounced before you started, and adding a little bit of color for the background mountains would be done at this time. So it's applying a next wash, but not really getting the paper real wet, because that would defeat your purpose again. Once you're finished with that, this is where the sponges come in, and the sponges can be a very good friend. The sponges, and this is a sea sponge, can be used to dapple on some color in a dry brush fashion, and you can see what I did before, and now I'm adding more color. And what the sponges are wonderful for is foliage. There isn't a better thing I know to use other than sea sponges when I would like to show the effects of bushes or trees or even clouds. I have dipped this in white and I have applied fluffy clouds with a sea sponge. So that's something to remember as well. That concludes our demonstration for the wet brush technique, spreading a wash for sky and for sea, and a little bit of sponging. Once we have finished with this section, we can work on dry brush techniques, and that'll be our next lesson.